I'd like to introduce myself. So, my name is Cindy. I am the founder and CEO of Village to Nation. And at Village to Nation, we're literally in the business of skills, of learning, of growth, of personal development, of going global. We literally are here to help you move forward in your career, in your life, and in how well you can secure your bag. Okay, so I'm just going to start us now. And as we wait for Doris to join in, one of the main prompts that made us want to host this class is very simple. Okay, so a few weeks ago, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were hiring our intern, and we received a lot of applications, not just from Kenya, from across the continent, and not just from across the continent, from places like India as well. That essentially, thank you, Tabitha, that essentially tells you that the people that you're competing with are not just your neighbor or the people that you went to school with. You're literally competing with someone living on the other side of the world. What this means is that, because for me, as an employer, so to speak, I personally did not care where someone is staying. The two things I was wondering is, what is their background? And can they do what it is that we want someone in that position to do? Which means that, yes, we did interview people from South Africa and from Nigeria. We didn't shortlist anyone from India, but we were not narrowing ourselves to a geographic location. And the thing is, because the world has changed so much, it essentially means that for a lot of people, wanting the opportunities you can access are absolutely above and beyond your borders. That is a good thing and that is a bad thing. It's good because it means you get to determine your career, you get to determine where your customer is, where your employer is, you get to determine all that. But it also means that you compete with a whole host of other people. I can also say, because I'm the one who was doing a lot of the shortlisting and the interviewing, a few things that I noticed that were a bit on the disappointing side, and it was important that we talked about them. And it was also important that people know what it is a CV in the 21st century should look like, okay? So
good evening, everyone.
Hi, Audrey.
Hello. So good evening, everyone.
Good evening. They can't say anything, but
Oh, it's okay. So my question is based on the basic outlook of the CV. Is it okay to go for a more current outlook for your CV, or is it mandatory you use the usual Word, Microsoft Word kind of design? Because for myself, I use the PowerPoint kind of outlook. So I wanted to know if that is okay. Thank you.
Okay. So those are very good questions. And thank you for asking. And the thing about this session is that Doris is going to be taking us through a very practical session on one of the CVs she worked. Yes, she's the country director of Shortlist, but on the side, she also does a lot of coaching for people, especially those who want to change career paths. So, Paris, please just check your mic on your phone. Maybe that's a problem because I think Audrey can hear me. So she's going to show us a copy of a CV of before and after and just guide us through the whole mindset process. Because one of those people went from one interview a month to around 10 interviews. A lot of us are already very skilled in the career that we want to have, but we just do not know how to showcase that. Okay, and even as we're waiting for Doris to join in this call, what I'll say from my own experience personally is that there are CVs that are not inspiring at all, okay? I'm ashamed to say this, but I took, and I know I'm not the only one, a lot of people who are in charge of recruiting and hiring take around 3 to 5 seconds to just scan. There are a few things we're looking for in that CV that will call it out, okay? And the best CVs that stood out are CVs that were not hard on the eyes. When I say hard on the eyes, if it is just a whole block of text that is boring, it already looks boring and intimidating. It could have a lot of the things that you want to have in there, but if it's boring and intimidating, it's just blah, you know. However, some of the CVs that stood out most were, okay, Edith is agreeing with me. Okay, thank you, Edith. And I can see you're a HR professional. Good for you. Okay, so some of the CVs that stood out is like the one our current intern, the person who got the job, had. Okay, it's more like a portfolio. Okay, so the portfolio meaning on one side it shows this is all the things I've been able to do, and here's a link that can tell you where to find what it is that you're looking for. You know, they can tell you, it's something that is very relevant to whatever it is I want. I do not care where you were born. As I said, we received applications from all over, okay? So I do not care where you're born. And right now, if it's a remote position, nobody gives a shit that you're in the armpit of something. Can you access internet, and do you have a computer? Can you do the work that we're going to be paying you to do, essentially? Can you provide the kind of value we'd be happy to pay for, okay? And Delphine is going to tell you, we asked questions like, we wanted to see, are you going to be learning? What are you keen on learning on yourself, on your own, after school? What have you been learning lately? And what is it that you'd like to learn during this class? So during this season, during this internship season. So that's essentially what it is that we were looking for, okay? So Doris, if you're here, I can see you're here, definitely. And I'm inviting you to the stage, okay? Please tell me you can join in now, because I know people are tired of hearing my voice. It's a nice voice. Yes.
Yay!
Good! You gave me a heart attack. We were prepared for this.
Yeah, I was prepared there myself.
Yes. We can see you. We can hear you. You look nice as usual. And thank you.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me well?
Yes, there's a bit of echo in your background, so I do not know whether it is your sound or it is my sound. But Ali said that yes, we can. So great, wonderful. I'm going to show myself because people are tired of seeing me and hearing me. Okay, I'll do in the background. Okay.
You did very well. You did very well. I heard you.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so you just take it away and let's start this. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, good evening, everybody. So I'll probably just start by introducing myself, and then we can continue from there. So my name is, I think Cindy has said this, Doris Mugei. I'm the country director for Shortlist here in Nairobi. My previous roles have been very eclectic. I have a degree in interior design, but I don't know the difference between blue and green to save my life. That's a whole other story. I have also been a lifeguard, a dive master, a waitress. What else have I done? I have had a very eclectic career that I've really absolutely loved. And so sometimes because of that, and actually mostly because of that, I actually am a career coach in my spare time, because I think we don't talk enough about careers, and when we do, we make it either too serious, like it's a marriage, or completely flippant that does not really set you up for success. So I have about 15 years experience across work. About 10 of those have been spent in human resources, between talent management, talent development, and I have a master's in management psychology, which is just master's that says help people observe behavior in organizations and how work is being optimized. Okay. Today, I am here because of a subject that is very personal to me, very exciting and very close to my heart, that I think that Cindy, sorry guys, my internet is off again. Can you guys hear me? Every time you can't hear me, just type there, because sometimes my internet has an issue. So good, thank you, Edith. Great, because I also am passionate about CVs and as a recruiter. So I've done, before Shortlist, I was in Career Connections. I worked there for 5 years. I don't know how many of you know Career Connections. It's a really boutique executive search firm that works across East Africa. Some of the really high profile CEO jobs you see placed, most of them actually placed in Career Connections. They just don't talk about it, but they do a really awesome job. So you can imagine my period from working in HR to being in HR consulting, especially around recruitment, to now shortlist again, which really focuses on recruitment. I have seen my share of CVs, and I think I'm really honored to be here to talk about this more. But today is not really about me. Today is about CVs. And I was telling Cindy, we can have a theory lesson on CVs, or we can have a practical session on CVs. So this is going to be a very practical session. I don't have 77 what. I'm going to share a CV, and we're going to go through it paragraph by paragraph. And I think it's easier this way. So the CV that I'm going to share with you is by one of the people I was coaching. She had lost her job during COVID. She is a marketer by profession, and she came to me saying, "Hey, Doris, if you know anybody who is looking, here's my CV." I looked at her CV and I told her, "How are you in marketing with such a bad CV?" She'll tell you this because I'm also a bit sometimes, unfortunately, direct. Her CV, if I saw her CV, I would not hire her as a marketing person, because marketing is all about aesthetics. First of all, that's the place you show up 150%. And her CV was not showing up. It was showing down in every single aspect you could imagine. So I did help her. I don't do people's CVs. I don't think anybody should do your CV. It's not really that complicated, by the way, guys. Don't be lied to. I pointed her in the direction and gave her tips as to if I was a marketing manager or a head of marketing looking at her profile, what would I be looking for? So we're going to look at Bansi's CV before she started and after. And by the way, Bansi got a job. So immediately after her CV, she was able to secure, I think, about 5 or 6 interviews, and she started working last month. So she's said this is her payment to me, that I can share that with you guys. Okay. Any questions, thoughts before we start? Anybody? I know I don't have a lot of time because we already spent a lot. Okay. Cool. So allow me to share my screen. So we are going to start with Bansi's old CV. And by the way, guys, because I can't see, I might have to stop sharing sometimes to just see what you guys are saying. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do both. I don't have 2 screens. So obviously that was her name, address, PO box, all that, and her email address. And then up here is written sales and marketing and customer service. So let's just start there first. So obviously the name is there. I don't think you have to tell anybody you're a Kenyan. If you have anything less than 6 years experience, your CV should be 1 page, 2 max. If you have 6 to 15 years experience, your CV should be 2 pages. If you're feeling a bit verbose, it should be 3 pages. Oh, we can't hear. Can you hear me now, guys? Anybody else? Thanks, Caroline, for that. Irene, thank you for that. Anybody else? Can anybody else not hear me? I can hear. Okay. Sorry, Irene, I hope you're able to hear me soon. So first of all, the initial principles is if you have 6 years of experience or less, unless you're working 24 hours a day, we all have the same experience. Thank you. Just make it 1 page. If you want to kabisa go further, make it 2 pages. So my goal today is first show you, make your CV look really nice, but also just reduce the content. There's so much content that we put in our CVs that is not even necessary. So let's reduce as much as we can. And avoiding bias. Okay, so I'll share this again so that you can see. So I don't think you have to say you're Kenyan. I don't have PO box in my CV, but this is dependent. Some people have PO box in their CVs because of some of the institutions and organizations they're working in. I just don't think it's necessary. If you need it, tell me. Obviously, you need your phone number and your email address. If you're working if you want to look digitally savvy, you want to look ahead, add your LinkedIn profile, but we'll go through that when we look at the other. So add your LinkedIn profile, add your Twitter update also, add your Twitter handle if you can. But it has to be showing you in good light. I'm just saying, because also, please. And then the other thing that Bansi put here is she wrote sales and marketing and customer service. So what Bansi is doing is what a lot of us do. We call either dumpster picking or throwing spaghetti in the wall and hoping something sticks. So as a hiring manager, I'll be looking at it and saying, so do I take you for sales? Do I take you for marketing? Or do I take you for customer service? Those are three completely independent skill sets that cannot belong to one person and you do well. And this brings me to my next point, which is before you even look at your CV, it is important that you have done the work to understand what is my next play. Just write that down. What's my next play? Because we don't spend enough time understanding what's your next play. And so your CV has everything from sales, from finance to marketing. As a hiring manager, when I look at that, I'm like, jack of all trades, not an expert, not sure what they want. So do the work to understand what's my next play, what's my next career before you start writing your CV. I can't stress this enough. There is probably, Cindy can do a whole, and I think we've done this already, Cindy, a whole session around just that, designing your career before even you do the CV. What do you do before that? It's not a science, and don't spend too many months thinking about it. Figure out 2 or 3 things that you want to do or you want to have in your next career. Write a CV around that. Look at your CV and say, how is my CV aligning to where I want to go? We don't spend enough time aligning our CV to where we want to go. Bansi had done sales, had done marketing, and had done customer service. My question to her was, what do you want? What does your heart beat for? Like when you think about it, when you sleep, what do you want your next career to be? Is it customer service? Is it sales? Or is it marketing? And she says it's marketing. I love marketing. I want to continue with it. And so the first thing we do is remove all those sales and marketing and customer service, because there's no hiring manager who wants a jack of all trades. We all want specialists. So just going back to the CV again, do the work it requires to understand what your next play is. And if you haven't done it, I'm going to say this nicely, you have no business doing a CV because it will look so confusing. All right, so sales and marketing, all this, it should ideally just be reading marketing. All right, and then the next thing we go to is profile. Some people have profiles, some people don't have profiles. I don't mind a profile that has quality content. If you know your profile works under pressure, professionalism, you know those things you get from Google. Please, for the love of everything that is this career, please watch. Let's just leave it. We don't need that. If you're putting up a profile, put a quick history of who you are before. So usually this is how I think about it. 50% of it has to quickly tell us who you are, but the other 50% has to tell us where you want to go. And that's why I insisted that you need to figure out where your next play and where your next career is going to be. So you can see Bansi had written sales and marketing professional with 9 years experience managing marketing and customer service for organizations in various industries. As a hiring manager, I can see sales, I can see marketing, I can see 9 years, but that's about it. There's nothing that tells me what this girl is passionate about, what she wants to do. I would rather you leave it out than put such a limp profile. Okay, so think about your profile and think about how you can make it very, very 50% past and 50% future, and find every word has to have a meaning and has to be heavy. So use more numbers. If you can say 9 years experience managing this amount of budget, this amount of marketing, anything that gives it a lot of qualitative and quantitative importance, you add there. All right, I will stop and see if there are any questions so far, please. Yes, Cindy. Please, guys, I'll be jumping back and forth there. So if you have any questions, please just let me know as we go along on each and every part of this. Okay, so that's the profile. Make it speak for your past, but focus a lot into where you want to go. The next thing that she had put in her CV is her education. Now, if you're a graduate and the thing you want to sell to an employer is your education, leave it here. If you maybe got a first class, if you got a really kick-ass degree that we need to know, like by the time you're putting your education here, let it be the thing you want to sell the most. For Bansi, it wasn't the thing she needed to sell. So I asked her to, and you'll see it in the other profile, this completely went down because it's not necessary for this particular space right now. If you're working in a university, obviously that's a different point of view, but I don't think education is what you want to lead with. Even for employers, very few of us, and I will say this with love, and I think Cindy knows this, as a recruiter, I can tell you, yes, we value education, but it's not the first thing we look at. It's not even the second thing we look at. In fact, what I have realized with employers is they look at everything else, and maybe if you don't have a degree, they'll be like, oh man, she doesn't have a degree. But they will have first looked at all the skills and experiences that they were looking for before they go there. So, or if you want to really kick ass, if you want to have it, please paste it there, bold it. But it has to be something that sells you, that you put there. Okay. So skills and experiences, skills and competencies was the next thing that had been added there. Just checking that there is no, all right, okay, good. So skills and competencies is what Bansi had put next. Can you say she put everything you can imagine? Digital, public relations, key accounts, customer service, relationship, product. It's what I call dumpster diving. It's just adding as much as you can to that and not really understanding how does this look for me to an employer, all right? And then again, soft skills. So again, in the spirit of just minimizing how much content that you're taking out there, and make sure that your skills and experience really speaks to a lot to what you want to be said. So in her other CV, what we did with her skills and experience, can you see how that changed? So it was digital marketing, public relations, Google Analytics, content writing, SEO, social media, market development, marketing strategies. Everything around sales and marketing. Actually, everything around digital marketing. And this is actually what got her the job. And in terms of soft skills, again, it was teamwork. It was around brand management, decision-making, negotiation, and time management, some such things. So again, obviously there's a lot of, I don't think this is her final CV, by the way. I probably picked up the wrong one. So there's a few issues that we need to sort in terms of just that. But you can see how the skills have now been changed and become very succinct to what she wanted to do next, and removed all these things that were not necessary. Because for me as a hiring manager, I want to quickly, in very, very few minutes, seconds actually, understand, is that it? Again, soft skills. If you have to put soft skills, I want you to think about it a bit more. Think about the career that you're going for. Think about what is it, if let's say you're a finance professional and you're looking for, I can see my internet is a bit unstable again, guys, let me know. If you're a finance professional and you're starting work as a finance, if you want to add soft skills, just do a bit of work to understand what type of soft skills are required in my profession. Okay. And how much of that do I have, or how do I incorporate that into it? Because it's one thing for you when you're entry level to tell me you're good in leadership, and then when it comes into the interview and I ask you, okay, so I can see one of your skills is leadership. Tell me about a time you led a team, and you start hesitating a bit, that's also an issue. So I'm not saying don't put your soft skills, but first think about the profession you're going into and how your soft skills are related to that. Think about your strengths, so that even if someone asks you in an interview, what are these skills? Tell me more about your soft skills that you put in your CV. You can actually be able to articulate that. It will not kill you if you leave them out, by the way. It's not the end of the world. If you leave out your soft skills in a CV, for example, nothing will break. So that's in terms of competencies and skills. And then the next thing that we went into is work experience. Please note, it's taken one page for Bansi to tell us about her work experience. If you know anything about employers, this is one page too many. And what we do is we skim through very quickly. And if that one first page is not already telling me what I want to know, it has to have something so compelling that should make me open the next page. But chances are, if by page 1, you have not convinced me where I should turn over to the next page, it's done. So your page 1 is your real estate. It's the front, it's the face that you're going with. And you need to make sure that it has the most important information. And when you're applying for a job, what is the most important information in this case? It's your work experience. So let somewhere along that line, make sure your page 1 has to have your work experience somehow. Let not people have to go through page 2 to find your work experience. A lot of hiring managers don't have time for that. I was like, this is a waste of time. It's too much work, next. All right. So no questions so far. I'm sure the questions will come later. So let me continue for now. Okay, I will brush. So if you look at work experience, obviously, so first page 2, try not to have work experience in page 2, try and have it in page 1. And then so she says digital marketing and key accounts. Should it be in capital letters? Probably not. So let's first start with how many colors has this girl used? So, okay, so her profile is in blue, blue, blue. Okay, so that's a bit consistent. Work experience is consistent. The colors are consistent. And then she starts with the title. I would ask that you just put this in normal font. It doesn't have to be in really, really shouting font. She has put there, articulated very clearly the duration, and then the key responsibilities have been put here. Now, in terms of key responsibilities, this is, if you look at how quickly they've been bulleted, it's just a copy paste from the JD. And we know this. And we as recruiters, we find it very lazy of you. This is copy pasted from a JD that you probably used or the job adverts that you had. What we want in terms of key responsibilities and what should be here ideally is there's no job that has more than 4 bullets of responsibilities, sometimes even 3. Just find what are the 3 most important duties that I was doing that are related to where I am going. Remember, again, it's about where you're going. So bullet those into 3 and leave everything else out. So ideally, this should have actually just been 3 bullets, and we move on from there. So think about that in terms of key responsibilities. You can also see that Bansi didn't put any achievements. But you'll see in the other side, she has included achievements. So it's not just about key responsibilities. You need to also add, as part of that, I was able to together, but this should not be such words. It should actually be statements of your activities with a resultant achievement. So it's about, I was able to increase the Google Analytics, say the SEO from this to this by doing 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. So the next one is relationship manager. You can see the font has changed. So here we are now at Century Gothic. Here we were at Century Gothic 10, bold. It's small, but it is annoying. If you've been a hiring manager, you know this is very annoying. So, and then this is bold. This is not bolded. There's a lot going on here. And this is, imagine this is a marketer. So immediately I'm thinking, if you can't even do such small things really, really well, there's a lot of content. You just need 4 bullets, maximum 4 bullets for each activity. And trust me, if you want me to show you my CV, I will show you. It has only 4 bullets, regardless of how much work I've done. 5 years, 4 years, it has 4 bullets of the key responsibilities in that aspect. At least you can see here, Batsy put achievements. So she had 3 achievements. But when you read increased brand visibility, you can see it's not really, sorry guys, it's not really increasing. What is that? So what? To what extent? What do you actually do? So it actually doesn't also have numbers. So to me, sometimes it might just look like something that was just put there instead of actually a thought process. Increased customer acquisition by 60%. By doing what? Sorry guys, my cat is making noise. Give me a minute. How long was I gone?
For like 3 minutes, give or take.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Were you talking to yourself? I'm sorry.
Yes. Oh, all this time.
Oh, I'm so sorry, girl. So then
I have finished.
So there are a number of comments in the chat box that you're going to address whenever it is you're done. Okay. So I'm just gonna let you do your thing. Then you can address that towards the end, and I'll let you. Okay. You can take it back.
Oh, there are so many comments. I'm almost done. So let me just finish one more thing. The things that I've been speaking to myself about.
Oh. Okay. Do you think? Yes.
Okay. So I was saying that if you have an experience that is anything that is more than 10 years. So if you have, actually, let me just stop sharing for now. If you have 10 years experience and more, no recruiter, no hiring manager, and this is said with all the love, we don't actually care much about what you've done after 10 years. Just put them in small bullets. We only care about your recent experience. Where you're supposed to highlight and give a lot of meat and focus is your last 6 years and above. 6 to 10 years, put anything more than 10 years, please just put them in bullets. You don't even have to say what you did there. It's fine. And it's not in a bad way. Scientifically, we can only prove your most recent experience as predictive to work. So hiring managers only care about those experiences. Yeah. The other thing, okay, let me first answer a few questions and then we'll continue from there. It starts with career change. So Paris asks about career change. How is it to make a career change in your CV? This is a really good question and one of my favorite questions because I actually coach people on career change, and so it's interesting. Paris, you can make a career change in your CV. You just need to be extremely intentional about it. One is you have to be able to articulate any small thing you have done around that career change, even the smallest things. If say you're moving from finance to marketing, first of all, before you even make that change, my assumption is that you've done a bit of work on the side. There's some things you're doing. You're not just going cold turkey. And if you are, try and start even volunteering in your marketing department. Have something even as little, okay? So that when you show up, when you show it in your CV, there's something a bit that talks about that. But also remember, a lot of career change is transferable skills. So understand, what transferable skills do I have? If I'm moving from finance to audit is probably the easiest. What are the transferable skills from finance to audit that I need to include in my CV to show? And then make sure the 50%, you remember I told you your profile has to have 50% past and 50% future. Your 50% has to be, in fact, increase it to 60%. Talk a lot about what you're passionate about for the future. So that way, someone knows from the beginning that this is what you want to do. The last thing on career change, please don't apply for jobs if your career changing. We don't look at your CV because your CV doesn't talk. All we see is your previous experience. So when your career changing, happy to have a chat later. It's a very different job strategy. It's very intentional, it's very focused, and it does not include applications because you're competing with people who are already doing that career. You won't make it. So, but that's a whole other conversation around that. So also talk about career planning. Delphine, I don't know what you mean by that. So maybe I'll continue and then you can add a bit more as we go along. How do you state your responsibilities when you hold multiple roles in a firm? I guess my question is, how many roles do you hold and how disparate are they? Because either if you're a general manager, let me use Ali, let me use a general manager, for example. If you're a general manager, you hold, say people report to you who are in finance, maybe sales, maybe whatever that case. You're still going to have to pick the 4 most critical aspects of your job. And it's rarely about the responsibilities. It might be around the key competencies. So if you're a general manager, you're talking about strategic planning. You're talking about maybe planning for things, maybe leadership, because leadership cuts across. So you start looking at those skills and competencies that cut across a lot of those responsibilities, because at that level, actually, it's more around those transferable skills that people will be looking for. So I hope I've answered that question. Dorothy, speak to my agent, Cindy. Okay, so Brian asks, please talk about CV without any work experience. Brian, first let's have a discussion about work experience. Try and get work experience. I can't stress this enough. Very few employers will take you if you don't have work experience. And I want to demystify work experience now. We are not talking about working for KPMG. We've just, as shortlist, we've completed the graduate recruitment program for Coca-Cola, for example. And we were looking at people with at least 1 year work experience. And people would say, oh, but how do you get 1 year work experience? And we are not asking you to work for 1 year. We are asking you for cumulative experience for 1 year. We didn't even care what you've done. Even if you are a hawker, even if you are, but we just need you to be able to have some work experience. And I'll explain to you why. So unfortunately, our education, and maybe this will help a lot of you so that you don't get disgruntled every time you're looking for work experience. Our education system, and for all the love I have for it, does not prepare you for the world of work. Okay? It prepares you for the theoretical world of work. Employers will have to spend so much time and money preparing you for the world of work because our education system is, and that's a whole story. We don't even need to go through there. So employers usually try and bridge that gap by at least looking for people who will not cost them too much to prepare them for the world of work. So at least 1 year to 2 year experience of any type of work, even if you're a virtual assistant, even if you're a house girl, that is work experience, because it has taught you skills about working that an education will never teach you. So first, let's get through that. You need to have some aspects of it. If you don't have any work experience, I would really struggle to tell you how to put your CV together, because you would have to highlight your education. You would have to highlight your volunteer activities. And if you do have volunteer activities, I want to consider that work experience. But I would, unless you're in high school or in first year, even first year, when I finished Form 4, I went to work in a hotel. So if you want to be competitive, I want you to get work experience. I don't want us to discuss a CV that does not have any work experience. Even if you're a farmer, that's work experience. Yeah. Hobbies, Valeria, I like that question. Any hobbies, extracurricular activities necessary in a CV? Remember, we have said 1 page if you're below 6 years, 2 pages, anybody after that, unless when you're Dr. Magoha and the professors. If your extracurricular activities are going to help you boost your career, yes. If they are not, don't make people be biased. What if you say you like something and kumbe that person did not like that activity? Don't put anything that is not uplifting your course. I'll give an example. My CV has extracurricular activities around how I help Good Kenyan Foundation. I volunteer for their career classes. College of Human Resource, I volunteer for things. That is helping my course because that is where my career is going. So it has to be aligned to where you're going. Always remember where you're going. How do you show my non-professional skill? This is a really, really good question. Show them if it is helping you go where you're going. So again, I'll give an example of my CV. I have an aspect, a part where I say other. Am I still okay? Let me see. Yes, I think my internet is still okay. So I have other, I call it other affiliations, other things, but everything is aligned towards where I am going. And if it's not aligned, I don't want it. Because remember, you just have 1 page, maximum 2 pages to impress someone. You only have to put things that are really aligned to where you want to go. Wait, what else? So, Bailey, I'm not sure what the question was. Could you clarify that? Okay, so YG has asked a question around for people in social science. So yes, Cindy.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like the chat box is moving a bit fast, okay? And I'm trying not to interrupt your very delightful session. And Brian is interrupting. I've had work experience all this time. You should tell us more about that, Brian. Have you been a house help? Which is fine. Clearly, everything that you've put your heart and mind to count. So that is good. So there are a couple. So maybe I could just read the questions for you, some of the questions, so that they don't pass you by, because I feel like there's been a number of questions I've told. Audrey is asking, how do you narrow down your skills for a job that includes secondary responsibilities as well aside from the acquired skills? Okay.
So how do you narrow down your skills for a job that includes secondary responsibilities as well aside from
the acquired skills? I don't know what that question means. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Audrey, if you could just expand on that question
Audrey,
a bit.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay, we go to the next.
YG is asking, sorry, for people in social sciences, how do you brand yourself? Sorry, for people in social sciences, how do you brand yourself in psychology, arts, etc.?
Okay, YG, why are you feeling like people in social service sciences have to brand ourselves? We are there, because I belong in that field. So I think it's the same as any other. It's not, and I want us to get away from branding ourselves based on the degrees that we've done. I can't stress this enough. Hiring managers don't care. They look at you, all they're thinking, can this person do the job? That's it. So brand yourself around what does this job require? When you look at a profile, a job advertisement, I'm happy to do a session around that. What are the words that are coming up all the time? So what words are being repeated continuously and consistently? Those are the words you need to brand yourself around. If you're applying for psychology entry-level jobs and you can see certain words being used and being thrown around in 5 or 6 JDs, that is what you need to brand yourself around. So don't worry too much about your degrees, and I think that's where we've sort of been, I don't want to say deceived, but society has sort of made us feel like that's what we need to focus on. I would urge you to focus on, I tell people, spend an hour every day looking at job adverts for the career you want. After a while, you'll start understanding the language of the employer, and they're all looking for the same thing. You start branding yourself and aligning yourself towards that. If not that, I don't know whether I have shared this, Cindy. Just give me a minute. Give me a minute. Let me share my trick to a lot of what I do with for a lot of people. Okay, so give me a minute. So I want to give you another trick. Every time you find a job advertisement that you're happy about, go to that website that I've posted there. You'll probably be asked to register, post your CV, and then it tells you to what extent your CV is aligned to that job. What keywords are being used? What are the words they're looking for? What years of experience? What type of achievements they're looking? It's a trick that as recruiters we don't like sharing, but actually use that and it will tell you how are you branding. It will show you how to brand yourself. Okay, Zeti is always where I send everybody because that's actually where you show. If you look at and sorry to digress a bit, I think this is important. This, you remember Bansi's CV? This was her first CV. Okay, I asked her to go to Zeti, and this was her second CV. So Zeti did everything. She did not have to do any of this. It's still very long, but it looks really cool, right? It looks like a CV for a marketer. I think by the end of the work we shared, we narrowed it down to 2 pages, but you can see what it does. So some of the skills, sorry, let me just cancel, good. And it will tell you some of the skills that you require to brand yourself. Cool. Yes, there is a cost for Zeti. It's 106. It's 106 shillings per year. I think 106. It's very cheap. Yeah.
There's a question that was asked here. Audrey expounded on her question. Okay, sometimes a job ad may include primary responsibilities that focus on things that you have experience on already, as well as secondary responsibilities. How do you also include the secondary ones in your CV? Okay, Audrey, now I understand your question. So always focus on primary responsibilities because someone will hire you even if you don't have secondary responsibilities. That's fine. That's why they're secondary. If you do have them, I would add that you ask that you include it in a cover letter. Desirable, they are not necessarily the deal breaker in a lot of those instances.
So include them in your CV if you have them, if you know it's going to boost you, or just add them to your cover letter. I still believe in cover letters a little bit, old school like that. Yeah.
Good. Momo asks, how did you manage to make the shift from hospitality to HR? I'm currently making the same shift. Any tips?
I think, and this is what I tell people who are making career changes. When you're making a career change, try and make it in the organization that you're in, because they're the only people who can trust you with experimentation. So a lot of the people who succeed in making career changes make them in those organizations. The same thing I can tell you. Where you're working right now, make the shift. Even if I used to volunteer for free at first before I did this, I volunteered. I taught training for free for a while. I think it took me 3 months for them to trust that this is something that I can do on a full-time basis. You have to remember it's a wild card for a lot of employers because you've never done this. And so the easier the landing for you, the better. And your current employer is the best person to experiment with. Yeah. And good luck.
Okay, so this is a question Ali is asking, and I'm very interested in hearing your own answer to this because this is something I've experienced firsthand, so no comment from my side. But what's your opinion downloading your LinkedIn profile for a CV?
That's a really good question. By the way, we in Shortlist we have a CV builder. I'm happy to share that link. LinkedIn profile for CV. If you think people's CVs are bad, you have to look at their LinkedIn profiles. No. Unless you have done the work it requires to make your LinkedIn speak for you in every single way, go ahead. If your LinkedIn is like 95% of the population, try not to. I try not to judge people who download LinkedIn because sometimes I wish I would just be allowed to do it. But unfortunately, hiring managers sometimes consider it very lazy. Like if you don't have time, like they say your CV, first of all, I don't believe in CVs, but that's neither here nor there. But your CV is the only thing you're showing us, and you couldn't just spend 10 minutes putting one together. So the perception around you doing that is a problem. I think in future we should just all use LinkedIn, but we are not there yet. And so just be a bit cautious when you're using it.
Thank you so much, Doris. Valeria, I have a question of my own as well, and I'd just like to hear your opinion on this, because this is something I'm very passionate about personally. But before we go to the about me, Valeria is asking, please give us a guide on what a cover letter should include.
Can you guys hear me again? It's really raining now.
I can personally hear you. I don't know if other people are having challenges, and if you are, guys, I'm sorry, but I personally can hear you. Apart from a few whatever's here and there, it's still very good on my end. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So cover letter. Cover letter is one of those that is controversial. I think employers are using it. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I think people feel like you've put in effort when you put a cover letter. It's a lot of work, especially when you start out and you haven't really fine-tuned and refined it. But in terms of what you should include in a cover letter, it should, I always say, and this is for everybody, 3 sentences max. First one is in relation to the introduction as to why you're applying for that job. The second bullet is why you think you're fit for the job. And the third bullet is just any how you're looking forward to the next steps and how they can contact you and stuff. So just make it as simple and succinct as possible. Don't go into a whole verbose statement around you know what you've done and all that. That's what your CV speaks to. So first paragraph, a bit about how you got the job and a summary of your profile. Second paragraph, why you think your skills that you've mentioned at the first paragraph are related and in sync with what they're applying for. And then third paragraph, just for me, it's around logistics, how they can contact you and stuff around that. That's it. I don't think there should be anything more than that in a cover letter.
That's good.
But there are many opinions. This is just my opinion. There are other opinions out there. Yeah.
I'll just add in my opinion there because I also read a lot of these things, and you're absolutely right. If you can send us a cover letter that can just tell us you are dope, enough for, you know, me to want to look at your CV, then that's like half the battle won, because we can tell you the same way we want people who, the same way you want a job, the same way employers and human people want people who are good fit for the job. So it's a win-win. Nobody is doing the other person a favor. You put in effort, we love you, you love us, and it's a marriage made in heaven. So Diana is asking, and this is a very good question because I have my own personal opinions on it. Could you touch on CV passers? I think you know what that is. How do you balance between having a dope CV and ensuring it's not too flowery, that the ATS misses out on reading some of your key detail highlights? So,
hey, can you guys hear me? It's raining really strongly. You can.
We can hear. Go.
Okay, perfect. Yo, Diana, this CV passing question, it never goes away. Okay, if you're applying for a job and you've been asked to dump it in an applicant tracking system, there's a few rules to it. It has to be in PDF. Don't ever send it in a Word. Please don't. Most CV passers don't know that. Go to Zeti and make sure that you've passed it through Zeti. You've seen to what extent your CV is matching to the job description. Remember, they look at keywords. So you have to make sure your CV has the keywords that are necessary and like the job. It's that's just how tough the world is out there. So do the work it requires. So go to Zeti, make sure the keywords are there. What else about applicant tracking systems? One font, use the most basic font. 12 Arial, please don't go dramatic. In fact, if you can, don't use all those Zeti dramas for CV that is going to an applicant tracking system. Make it basic, nice, neat, but very basic. Because the thing about an applicant tracking system is it's been told to either get your keywords out of it as quickly as possible and then take you to the next stage. It's not a human being. It doesn't care for the blue and the what and the fanciness that you put in there. It's just looking really, really for the keywords. Some applicant tracking system, like the one we use at Shortlist, doesn't use keywords. We use a chatbot. So that's slightly different because we'll ask you a few questions that are related to the JD again. Always go back to that job description and and the chatbot decides to what extent you've answered them that is related to the JD. So yes, I always say have a CV for the applicant tracking system and have a CV that you're just sending to hiring managers who are not taking it through an applicant tracking system. I hope I have answered your question.
Just type them in the chat box and we are. Oh, Doris, we lost you, but welcome back. It's always so nice having you back. So, yeah, we did, but you're back now. But you are muted. You are muted. So maybe unmute yourself.
Can you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go on. Okay, good. Move forward.
Is there any other question there?
Yeah, oh, wait. There was a question that I had myself. I think it was still in the whole, you are talking about the cute CV and the ATS, and you're saying something about how the shortlist applicant tracking system uses a bot or something. So could you explain that a bit more? Because I feel like there are people who could be interested in hearing that.
Okay. So there's different types. There's applicant tracking systems that use a bot that just picks keywords. So it picks the most important words and screens your CV through that. Your goal is to make sure you're in 80% keywords match. Go to Zeti for that. The other applicant tracking systems like Shortlist use a chatbot. So a chatbot has been trained to ask specific questions related to those keywords again and those experiences. So at the end of the day, everybody is just trying to see to what extent does your CV match the job. That's it, bottom line. Everybody's just trying to get to that at the end of the day. Yeah.
That is so wonderful. And thank you for saying that, because I feel like for a lot of people, they are very qualified, but they feel like they want to throw in everything here just in case you need someone who also can do this. But We just want someone who can do the job we actually ask them to do, because that's essentially what they're being paid to do, right? And I feel like for lots of people, they operate from a place of fear of being inadequate. They don't feel like their expertise is enough, so they just add in things that they did like 16 years ago, things they did in church when they were, in Sunday school, and things like, just in case you need someone who also went to Sunday school, they just throw it in there. We've had some of the most interesting CVs, which is wonderful. I feel like I lost you somewhere. There are things I want you to talk about before, because I also don't want us to take forever here, and I do enjoy this conversation. Things I want you to talk about: one, referees, okay? And where and how do you add in referees? The other thing I want you to talk about is, we already talked about PO Box and everything else. The other thing I want you to talk about is how beautifying your CV, for example. Let's say it's not going into an applicant tracking system, okay? To what extent should you make your CV look delightful to the eyes, okay? So referees, making CVs look cute, okay? And three, one of the things I'm really passionate about and we have to talk about in this call is how do you create an online portfolio that allows you to just sell yourself as a professional, okay? You don't have to be a creative artist or, a Netflix producer, but how do you create a portfolio that when someone looks at, it's delightful? You're muted. I'll mute yourself so you can just unmute yourself and just.
Okay, so I'll start with referees. I have, so first of all, there's from a scientific perspective, there is zero correlation between a referee and the performance of the job. And we teach this to a lot of hiring managers. It doesn't matter how many referees you put. There's no indication and correlation to the job performance. So if you want to add referees, that's fine. I always tell people, don't add referees unless they need it. Remember that future that we are talking about. If you think that your referees will speak to the future you want to go because they have that role, add them. If not, don't add them then. And if you do, please respect people's privacy. Don't put people's email addresses and phone numbers. Just put their names and their position and maybe where they work, but that's about it. Because what you don't understand is that is how people now get sales leads. So they're like, this year I've been looking for a while. Let me now talk about it now that I have their email addresses. So just respect your referee's privacy. Don't put details that, and also you don't want anyone to call your referee before you're ready for them to be called. Again, if it's in the future, add them. Otherwise, say referees to be contacted later, unless they specifically ask you to include them. Please do. If they don't, leave it out for them. So that's number one. Number two, Cindy asked about portfolios. So I think for me first, I want to speak to. I'll give you an example of someone we were hiring. We were hiring for a client. Was it 2 months ago? She was supposed to be a marketing manager. They were looking for a marketing manager. This girl didn't even come to that. She didn't apply using a CV. That's beneath her. She just sent in her.
Sorry, Doris. I feel like your audio is a bit off. Is there a way you can put your microphone closer to your mouth, maybe, so that it's like. Same. Yeah.
Is that better at all?
Yeah, it sounds better. It sounds better. Absolutely. Go on.
Yeah, please let me know. I'm really sorry about the weather today.
You are muted.
Okay. Can you guys hear me well?
Yes, go on.
Okay. So in terms of portfolio, so she comes into the sessions with really good a portfolio. Like all she did was just show us the work she has done, and she blew everybody away. She had links, she had pictures of everything she'd done, all the projects she had handled. That portfolio was out of the month. She was hired. It didn't even take time. No one needed to ask. You didn't even need to ask her little things because from her portfolio alone, you can see it. And granted, at the time, you can think, okay, are you the one who did this? Maybe you helped with someone. But what she did in her portfolio is for the projects that she was working with other team members, she made that absolutely clear. So she was able to say, I was the lead, I was the assistant, I was able to do this. So it was very clear for us that this is someone who is not necessarily stealing other people's thunder, but has done a wonderful job with portfolios. So not all careers would require you to have a really, really robust portfolio, but if you can be able to show that out, please do. What I've done with mine is I've added the last page of my CV has links to content that I've created. So it's very, so I don't necessarily show it like other people do, but I have content, all the blog posts I've written that are relevant to where I am going. Remember about where you're going. So you put the links to all those, any ebooks I've created relevant to where I want to go, I actually include them into my CV because it talks to my future and where I'm going. Cindy, what was the
The other question was on beautifying your CV, okay? And there's also a question Paris asked, but I'm just going to push back just a bit on that portfolio question then. Someone asked, are portfolios used across all industries? And what are some of the ways you've intimated a few examples on how, you can bring in a portfolio. So what are some of the ways, let's say you are a teacher, for example, you're applying for a teaching job, if you had to put in a portfolio, what would that look like, for example, okay? Or you're an accountant, maybe, or something. So what would that look like if you were to put together a portfolio that you can?
Okay, that's a really good question. I don't know if I have all the answers, but I'm going to try and answer to the best of my knowledge. I don't think all jobs require portfolios. I think jobs that have content require portfolios. Jobs that you're almost selling yourself as the person requires portfolios. The jobs that I've seen a lot requiring portfolios in a lot of the time and spaces are especially jobs in marketing. You can put a portfolio if you are in especially the creative space. Jobs in digital tech, a lot of them have portfolios that they manage. So what a portfolio looks like to me and what I've seen a lot is just really a very suave PowerPoint, which talks a bit about yourself, but now really goes into your projects in a bit more detail. So it's not just highlighting the project, it's actually saying, let's say you want to, I saw a JD the other day for a girl who's a UX designer. I was fascinated, a CV. So first page was about her CV, and then just she had one page on her portfolio and her projects. So she highlights the project, what her role was, a bit about her achievements, and just a link for you to actually go and see the work. So this is a UX designer, so it's very easy for you to actually access some of that work. So it's just a very short, succinct way of you showing your creative work to the world. Obviously, for some careers, that's a bit like finance. I don't know what you'll be able to show us in a portfolio, and how confidential some of the information you're sharing, or even whether finance as a profession requires that. Remember, some professions really love you to be humble. So the level of humility that you require to come in with, you need to maintain that. They'll tell you, this one is those ones for big words, and then they don't do anything. So again, you have to watch for that. Sales, obviously, you can have a portfolio, because sales also has a bit of content that comes with that. A teacher, you can have a portfolio, absolutely, because a lot of what you do is very, very creative. So if there's things that you've done that are extremely creative that you can paste or show into a PowerPoint that is really your own creation, bring it in there. What we are trying to say is you're actually just showing your creation and a lot of what you've done and helping people see the other side of you that is not just the CV you're showing.
That is wonderful. And as a segue into that, and I know we're running out of time, Paris asked, should you include membership on your CV if you're registered to a relevant board?
Yes, absolutely. I have memberships in my CV, but mostly because they speak to where I want to go. So again, everything around your CV has to just help you. And if there's someone who had asked if you don't have experience in the place where you want to go, the easiest way to get that is sometimes through memberships. So if they're going to help you go where you want to go, absolutely, please make sure you.
Thank you so much for that. There's a point you had made earlier, especially about changing jobs. I don't know if you finished explaining that point or if we lost you, where you said if you're trying to change industries, you don't apply for a job. There's a way you go around that. Or was that the point where you said you go through your current job? So if you don't have a current job and you're trying to change industries, is there a way to navigate that?
Yeah, okay. So what happens when you're trying to change careers is the reason why I ask you not to apply for a job the same way other people do is because you're competing for that job with people who already meet 70% of the JD criteria. You remember the JD criteria? The ATS looks at them and they meet you. You don't have those skills. You know you can do the job, but you don't have it. Because you're not speaking to a human being, there's no way you can explain that to them. So instead of spending time applying for a job, change your strategy and actually have conversations. I call them informational interviews with potential employers so that they see you first and understand why you're passionate about this space. A lot of people hire for passion. A lot of people hire for passion, but they have to see it. So spend time making good and networking and building. I know networking is not a word we like using, but spend time talking to potential hiring managers instead of spending time applying to.
Thank you so much for that, Doris. So a final question from me, and guys, we are closing on to the end. But a final question from me, Doris. There's a question someone asked at the very beginning before you're able to join in. I don't know if you got that. She said she usually sends her CVs in form of PowerPoint presentation. Is that advisable, for example, and to what extent should you practice creative freedom in CV writing, for example?
Yes, to creative freedom, except what is your profession? And if you're a finance person, I love you guys in finance, but you're a little bit dull, and they'll just judge you for it. And it's not in a bad way. If you're in marketing, if you're in sales, if you're in those cool places, for sure, send it. Because you have to remember, you have to always think, I wonder what type of hiring manager is behind this. Like, so it's not so much about this is me, this is what I want to do. It's also, I wonder who is going to receive this. How I say yes to PowerPoints as CVs. I think it's where we want to go. But just make sure that in that PowerPoint reviews, it doesn't mean you're putting 25 words, because remember, I still want to see everything in one page. Because I don't have time to scroll through because it's a PowerPoint. Just make it nice and neat, but you know, why not? I think that's where the world is going.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm 100% with you. You're breaking up a little bit towards.
Did we lose me again?
You broke up a bit towards the end, but we could hear what you said. Yeah. So thank you so much for that. So guys, we're nearing the end, and I just want to echo a number of things Doris, the very delightful, glorious Doris, has said. Also personal experience. The CVs that stood out to me especially are CVs that are directly relevant to the position we're hiring for. Okay, so Paris, please no word format in CVs, and maybe Doris is going to counteract this. So please, 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 no word format in CVs. There's nothing that frustrates someone reading your CV than seeing all the red underlines Microsoft makes because you maybe missed out a word or something, you know. Then part of the skills is attention to detail. Please, 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 for the love of everything that is wonderful, no word format. Tafadhali. Let's just agree on that one, okay? So that is one. Two, the other thing, yes, as Doris has also said, look at what the job you're applying for is. Everyone likes looking at beautiful things, especially me. Okay, so you may not know that about me, but if I'm reading your CV, I want to enjoy reading it. Okay, I do not want it to look like, oh my god, a boring novel that I have to read. That is not something that is interesting anyway. Okay, remember, you are already talented in ways, so you just want to put yourself in a position where someone can actually read your talent and appreciate it. Okay, in personal information, name, email address, and phone number at the top. Unless you're asked, please no PO box, no date of birth, no place of birth. Marriage, no religious affiliation, please, no religious affiliation. What else did we see? Please. None of that.
And maybe it's important for you to understand why is because remove anything that will bias a hiring manager against you. So if they were looking for single people and you're married, if you're a woman, they'll say, this one is married, she'll get pregnant very soon. Don't bias. Don't make anybody bias. Remove anything that is going to.
Thank you so much. And Audrey is asking, is it okay to have your referees on the third page? Doris already addressed this. In my opinion, if you've not asked someone to be your referee, please don't add their number and email there. Some of them don't even remember you. Doris knows me very well, and if I want to use her as a referee for a funding we're applying for anything, I have to call her or email her, yo, by the way, is it okay if I use you as my referee? So they expect it, you know. She'll know who Cindy is, but it's courtesy, and you don't go around just spreading people's information. So you say that referee should be on the second page because CVs should be short, or you wrote number 2. What does number 2 mean, Doris?
2 pages of CV.
Yes.
Stick to 2, even if you're feeling the pressure.
Preach. So Caroline is asking, how do you deal with the situation where you have the relevant work experience but no degree?
Caroline, all that is important to hiring managers is relevant work experience. I can't stress this enough. I have someone right now I'm coaching who has no degree, nothing. She is getting so many job applications. Don't worry about it. Just highlight, and what you want to do is just make sure that someone looks at your CV and does not even wonder whether you have one, because you've done a beautiful job of making it really good look, with especially your achievements, what you've done, your achievements. You've not been skipping a lot of, you don't have too many skips in your job, but never worry about not having a degree. It's not a prerequisite unless you're a doctor, lawyer.
100%, absolutely. Ever since I left law school, I don't remember anyone ever asking me. So I usually throw in that I'm a lawyer because it feels good, and lawyers will do this very often, you know, just name dropping, but nobody cares. And especially nobody cares what degree I you know, like second upper, first class, nobody gives a shit. If you went to Harvard though, name drop that shit, to be honest. Just name drop it everywhere you can. Other than that, if you went to regular colleges or like normal human beings, leave it out, okay? So guys, yes. So Doris, I'd want you to just give us a final short word of advice. Then I'll just close this up, and then yeah, I'll tell you guys about the next steps. Doris, take it away.
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much. You've had so many interesting questions. I'm really sorry about my internet. It's not been the best. It was okay in the morning, just fine when we were doing the test. So I don't know what happened between them. I think for me, final words is, number 1, I can't stress enough. What is your next play? Go home and sit and ask myself, what's my next play? What do I want to be next? You've realized that your CV aligns a lot to where you want to go. If you haven't done the work, and you're just throwing spaghetti on the wall and hope one sticks, it's going to take you long. So figure that out first. Number 2, 50% of your CV to speak to where you've been, but also spend time speaking to where you want to go and how you're going to craft your CV, and anything around the content of your CV has to speak to your future, because people have to find and show that that is a bit predictive to where you want to go. CV writing is not technical. There are tools. I can't even lie to you that you have to do it on yourself. There are tools out there, thousands of them. That is just one example. Go and find tools. There's one for shortlist. If you go into the shortlist website as a candidate right now, we have a CV builder. Beautiful, very simple. It takes you 5 minutes. All the information is in it. Gives you a PDF. So and it's free. It's not even like Fuzo who will charge you. We give it to you for free. There are so many ways to build CVs that you don't still have to have a CV that has 65 different formats and fonts and colors, and are really, really doing you a disservice as a person. So that to me is also important. Probably finally is the reason why I don't believe in CVs is I have never actually been hired through a CV, because I've never applied for a job. I don't apply for jobs. So as much as I want us to talk about jobs, you remember that CV writing and job application is only 30% of getting a job. 70% of the jobs are not advertised. People learn through them in different ways. So as much as you want to make your CV look good, I don't want you to make your CV look good for an applicant tracking system. I want you to make your CV look good for the next job, and then do the work it requires. Do the tamaking it requires by looking for connections and finding those hiring managers to now speak to them about your CV. Final thing before I forget, if you connect with someone on LinkedIn, for the love of all that is raining cats and dogs, please don't send them your CV as a first thing. please, I ask you, and I ask you 100 times, it is the rudest thing you can do. It's like, and this is going to be a bit intimate, but it's like when you meet a guy and then on the same day, the guy decides, see, we go to my house. Always remember that every time you want to do it, because that's exactly what it is. Sorry to use that, but it's the only example I can think about. So please get to know someone a bit more. Schedule a call. Don't shove your CV to people. It's very rude. And learn people, hear them first. Let the CV sharing be the last thing you do. That is probably more polite. All the best, guys. It's really been encouraging. I wish you all the best, and let me.
Doris, you are a woman after my own heart. Absolutely, without question. You know why, for this reason and so many more. There's a lot of wonderful feedback in the chat session. Everyone agrees, I'm assuming, because a lot of people agree that the session has been very insightful, and thank you for the opportunity to learn. So guys, just so you know, okay, because we don't want to leave any of you here as orphans, Doris and I, okay, will be organizing some coaching session, okay, for people who just need the hand holding, okay, whether it is you're trying to get into a new industry or you're trying to wiggle your way into the job of your dreams, we will take you through that, okay? So please just check your email session after this or early tomorrow morning. We'll just show you how we're going to rock that out, okay? Remember, Doris is badass. She's a professional. She literally does this for a living, and there's a reason why she is the boss of shortlist in Kenya, okay? And I like name dropping you all the time, obviously. So I'm very thankful to get to know her and enjoy her energy and everything else. So guys, the recording of this session, it's the very first time we are recording a session on Amit. We do not know how the quality will look like, but if it is something that I feel like you will benefit from, guys, you know, I got you always, because we really like making sure that we serve you. And last but not least, shout out to our very delightful intern in the background. She's always badass in her own way. Delphine, wherever you are, you rock, and I appreciate you. She helped a lot in getting all this together. I know I can be annoying sometimes, but thank you for staying in there. So Doris, we're going to talk. Yes, we'll share the recording if it is good enough, because we also don't want to be associated with things that are a little shady. So we'll send out the emails and everything else. So guys, if you want to type goodbye message before you leave, you are welcome to. And we are going to call this a night.